Cast.
Welcome to the Epic Gaming Night podcast, a podcast about tabletop games, but mostly board games. I'm your host, Roy Canaday, and with me, as always, is Rob.
I will always be Roy. Always.
Nice.
Even in those awkward moments, I will be with you.
Nice. Awesome.
It's just you said I'm always with you, and so, I'm going to take that to heart. I will always be there.
He'll be there for me. Creepy. Good times. Yeah. Matt is still recovering from his trip out of town, but
he just got in earlier today, right?
Yeah. So he said they did tons of hiking while they were there, and he's kind of exhausted. So next week,
the beard returns.
Nice. So
what if he shaves it?
Dude, what if he shaved it? He would be like a completely different person.
We should kick him off the podcast if he shaves it.
I'm about to say we just have to find another person with a beard because
right?
We have to have the symmetry of having the no beards on the outsides and then the one beard in the center. It's the best.
Beard sandwich.
It's kind of crazy.
Oh, we're on a podcast. Okay, so I'll stop.
So the topic tonight is going to be about the board gaming hobby. But before we get into that, we're going to talk about what we've been playing. Do you want me to start, or you want to go first?
Well, you said you were going to talk about a couple, so why don't you go with one, then I'll go, and you go.
Nice. I guess the first game that I'll talk about is Doodle Quest, which is this family-style game, maybe sort of like a kid's game, but you are trying to draw lines to connect different objects and avoid certain things, but also run over, like certain things can give you different points. So there's like this square board that has a picture, and you have to draw from like one side of the picture to the other, or sometimes you have to try to like circle things, or sometimes you have to like just draw things and try to make sure it stays like in the lines. But the trick about this game is you're drawing it all on a transparency that is off of the actual board itself. So you have a square board that shows you what you need to do and what the quest is for that round, and then you have a clear transparency that has nothing on it except like the square to show you how to line it up. So you're drawing on this transparency, staring at this other picture, trying to make things happen. So there's all sorts of cool stuff. Like the first one is you're basically trying to draw from one side of the board and hit these like starfish without like hitting like tentacles and stuff like that from octopuses. Or like there's one where you're trying to dodge fish, and then there's another one where you're trying to draw teeth on a shark. And there's one where you're trying to like draw little bubbles, like you have to draw little circles. So there's like different shapes you have to draw sometimes. And it also comes with little like fish stencils, which are used for some of the quests too. Like there was one where it just had like 4 fish on the board, and you had to try to use the stencil on your clear transparency and have the little fish end up inside the fish stencil that you draw. So it's a very like silly little family game where you're just drawing with these dry erase markers on like a clear transparency and then setting it on there to line it up. I played this game multiple times within the last week. I played it with my with the in-laws, and they liked the game a lot. And I also played it with the regular game night group, and they actually liked it a lot too. It was pretty funny. One thing is, though, like Hector was a beast at this game. It was crazy. Like I did really good like the first time I played, like with my in-laws, I did pretty okay. So I was like, I got this, I'll do this, and showing them how to play the game and stuff like that. And I was trying to draw, and like I wasn't doing bad, but I wasn't doing perfect. Like Hector, every single time he would get the max amount of points. So like there's like certain ways to get points, and then there's ways to get bonus points by like running over starfish or doing specific things that it says to get bonus points. He got every single bonus point every single time except for one. One time he had one less point than max points. And we were just like, oh man, why are you so good at this? He's like, I just look at the thing and I draw it on there. So it was really awesome.
Because he's Hector.
It was really awesome. And we were making fun of Danny, his roommate, because his roommate does like graphic design. So we're like, Danny, I thought you were the graphic design guy. You should know all the like space stuff and where everything should be. So it was a lot of fun.
Was Danny even close, or did he come like in last place or something? Because
I'm
that would
pretty
be
sure.
funny.
I think I came in last place on that one. So I was talking to Tim half the time, being distracted because he wasn't actually in the game, trying to make sure he was still entertained while we were playing a game without him. But
Yeah.
still, like, I failed on like multiple things. So I didn't do terrible, but I didn't get perfect. So that was what I was going up against. So that game
Okay.
was a lot of fun. I think it's great. Like, my friend Braden says that he plays it, his kids play it a lot. So they'll
Yeah.
play it like in the car. They'll play it like wherever. They'll just you can play the game real easy. And I think it's a really good like family game that kind of like levels the playing field sometimes. So kids could probably do just as good as adults, just depending on how good they are at spatial recognition and where they need to draw on the board. So that was Doodle Quest.
Doodle. Well, sweet. Sounds like a lot of fun. I watched you guys a little bit on Twitch, and the one round I did see, it was like fish had to get on a hook or something like that, something with a hook, and I saw Hector score like a perfect score, and nobody was close that round to Hector.
Yeah, yeah.
It was pretty ridiculous, and there was a squid one where you had to get like these ink blots inside of like these squid bubbles or something.
Yeah. So basically,
Yeah,
like the hooks one, like you had the little stencil, and you had to have the fish overlapping the head of the worm because there's just like pictures of three worms on there that are on hooks. You had to have the
yeah,
fish overlapping the head of the worm without touching the hook. And the way the game works is like you get a different number of points depending on how many like successes you really get. So I think that one was like 4 points for each time you got the fish over the head of the worm without touching the hook. If you completely missed the worm, you got 0 points. If you touched the hook, you got 0 points. If you got it perfect, you got 4 points, and that's times 3, so you could get 12 points max. So most of them are like that, where there's if you got 2, you'd have 8, and if you got all of them, you'd have more. So all the rest of us like failed that one, and then Hector like slides his little thing on there, and we're just like perfect every time. What?
like how do you do this? Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it was pretty awesome.
Well, cool beans. Well, I am. Um, oh, I played Spectre Ops again. I had a lot of fun. I played this time with a new couple, and with I also played with my wife again. We would do something. We were doing something like at a church event or something, and
Nice. Who
then
was the hunter?
everything.
Or I mean, who was
They were.
the spy?
I was
or
the
whatever
spy
it is?
again. I was the spy again,
They just want
and
to
they
catch
were
you.
the hunters. And the objective in Spyfall, it's real simple. It's one person is a spy, and there's 1 to 4 other hunters. If you play a 5-player game, the 5th hunter is actually a secret spy, but I really don't like that version of the game. So I like to play, 2 to 4 players. The other players are trying to find you and kill you before you complete 3 out of 4 objectives and escape. Now, you as the spy, you have 40 turns to complete 3 out of 4 and escape out of there before you die. And man, I wrecked them this time. They didn't hit me one time. They never saw me. The only time that they saw me is like when I had to put a marker down that I crossed the street, where like they saw me looking all the way at the other end of the street. Like they thought I was in one corner and I was in the exact opposite, but they had somebody in the road. And so when my person crossed the street, you have to put down a little token saying that's the last place you would have seen me. And it was horrible. I won by like, I mean, the game was amazing. I'm just saying they did horrible.
People
I
aren't going to
won by
want to
like
play
10
with you
points.
anymore if you're just too good of a.
Well,
too good
here's
of
the
a
thing.
spy.
Like they were, I was really living up the whole dramatics. Like they'd ask me a question. Like one of the prophet has this special ability where you can ask a question, and well, it's not that you ask a question. I have to tell you where I was 2 turns ago, and so they were using that ability. But then there's the beast character, and the beast character for the hunters is probably one of my favorites. Not the most OP, but he's amazing. He's got this ability where if he moves 3 spaces or less, he can do a sniff action to try to sniff you out. And that sniff action covers a 4 squared radius. So it covers like a whole corner of the map. It covers like a big area of the map. So the beast can go into an area and just kind of sniff it out and see. And you have to tell him where you are, But if you're in that 4 space radius, you do have to say, "I'm close." That's all you have to say. And every time they sniffed or did anything, I wasn't anywhere that they thought I was going to be. And I remember one time they did the motion sensor on the vehicle, and you have to tell them where you are in the motion sensor in the vehicle. And this guy, my friend Daniel, he goes to this one spot and he says, "Am I clear? Are you clear?" Because every time a hunter moves, the spy at the end of the hunter's turn, the spy has to declare if he's clear or not, like whether you can see him or not. And just to completely mess with him. And they knew I was in this one corner, but I wasn't where they thought I was. Anyway, long story short, he goes and he thinks he finds me, and he's like, "Ooh, are you clear? Are you clear?" And so I grab my map, and I'm like, "What space are you on?" "Oh, you're on J something." "Okay, let me check." You're there, and you could. No, I'm just clear, and I'm putting it on like I'm close, but I'm really like on the other side of the map. It's like, and so he gets this whole game plan and convinces the other 2 ladies to join him in this corner.
That's,
and now
that's
I'm on
kind of
the other
along
side
the lines
of the
of
map.
what happened to me in Letters from Whitechapel. Is they were all
It was really
conspiring
bad.
to do things.
Yeah.
And you're just like, "Oh
And,
man, don't do that," and they're like going the wrong way.
I saved my last objective for right near the exit. And so on my next turn, because every time you're the spy, if you're about to complete an objective, the turn prior, you have to declare, "I'm going to complete an objective." And so they do a couple turns, and then I do mine, and I say I'm going to declare, and then like 2 turns later, I won. It was rough, and I convinced him so bad. He was telling his wife, he was like, "Look, if Rob isn't in this area, he should win like an Academy Award. Like, do you see his face? He was looking at the map. He grabbed his map. Did you see his face? Like, he's right there. I know he's right there." And I just started laughing. I couldn't help it. I just started laughing. I'm like, "Oh my God, I got you so bad."
Did they enjoy the game?
They did enjoy the game, but I think I caused a fight
Oh, no.
in a marriage. Because then the wife, Jessica, she's a sweetheart and everything, and she's actually a really good gamer. She's a very good gamer, but she grew up playing board games.
Nice.
But she just got to the point where it was like, "You know what? I'm not going to do what you say anymore. I'm just going to do whatever I want." And she started to catch up with me, but they were already too far behind. Like, even without her knowing where I was, she started to catch me. But I still didn't have to reveal myself.
Maybe she should have been leading the party.
I mean, I kept encouraging for him to, because I was like, "Man, you're doing such a great job."
Because he's going the wrong way.
I was like, "Man, you guys are really close. You guys are really close." And every time my wife, because she was the beast, she would do the sniff action, I'd be like, "Hold on, let me count the spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope, I'm not in the sniff range." And I'd make it seem like I was near, but I was nowhere near them. Like, they did horrible.
They should listen to this podcast, and then they'll figure out all of your little tricks. And they'll be like, "We're not falling for it this time, Rob. We're not falling for it this time."
Well, afterwards, I told him everything that I had done, and he didn't get upset, but he just felt really embarrassed. And his wife was like, I told you, Rob's playing you. He's a mind player. I told you." And so, but speaking of that same group, I haven't played it yet. I'm kind of nervous, and maybe you can give me some tips. We are playing Dungeons and Dragons. My friend got a starter set, the 5th edition starter set.
Nice.
And I have never played Dungeons and Dragons before. Long story short, to me, Dungeons and Dragons is like, that's full nerd. Like, if you play that, you're full nerd. There's no coming back. And I know that may not be great.
I'm pretty sure you've already passed that, Mr. Like 15 boards of Risk Legacy, and you play video games all the time and play tons of Magic the Gathering. Come on, man.
I know, but like
this
is that crack cocaine of the nerd kingdom. Like, you can't, like, anyway. So I'm excited to play. I've never played before. He emailed me a sheet today of different characters to choose from or whatever. So I don't know, but I'm excited. I think we're gonna try to play like on Thursday or something like that later in the week.
Awesome.
So I'm kind of excited, but scared at the same time. I don't want to commit to being full nerd. I don't want to admit it. You know,
dude, man, just dive in. It's
dive in.
Awesome. Just dive in.
So should I be like a paladin, elf dwarf? Like my dad was a dwarf, but my mom was an elf, kind of a thing, like in The Hobbit, kind of a thing.
I don't think that actually happened in The Hobbit.
Well, you know, in the movie, like there was that love interest between the elf girl and that little dwarf guy. Even though he dies, spoiler alert,
I'm pretty
one of
sure. I'm
one
pretty
of the
sure
dwarfs dies.
in the unextended version that I'm gonna make, that part's all cut out. So I'm
Yeah,
just kidding.
but anyway, yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. But I'm excited. So, what was the other game that you wanted to talk about before I take all the time?
The other game that I want to talk about is we got to play Galaxy Trucker. Have you heard of that game, Rob?
I have heard of that game, and I did see you guys play a little bit on Twitch. I didn't comment when you guys were playing, but it looks crazy.
Yeah,
A lot
man.
of tiles.
So the way Galaxy Trucker works is you are a person that is trying to ship goods from like one end of the galaxy to the other, and you've been hired to do this, but the only thing you have to build you don't have a ship, so they give you a whole bunch of just like sewage parts to build the ship with. So you just have like pipes and like guns that are made for cleaning out drains, and like all these different like just junk parts, and you have to try to build your ship. But the mechanics of the game is that you get a little grid of a ship. So it's normally like, it's sort of like triangular. You're like, your first one is like flat on the back, and kind of like the front of it's a triangle. And they're all like squares, and you have little square tiles that are all face down in the middle of the board. And on your turn, or not on your turn, at the same time, everybody in real time builds a ship. And you build a ship by picking up these tiles, looking at them, and you can either place them on your board or place them back face up on the table to be taken later. You can't like go and just flip a whole bunch of them. You have to like actually flip them up while they're over your board. And if you place a piece on your board, it has to stay where you placed it. There's a bunch of other rules about like guns can't have anything in front of them and engines can't have anything behind them. But the cool thing about the game is like there's all these different parts that do tons of amazing things, but you can't fit them all on your ship. So you have to try to figure out what the best parts that it's going to get you to the other side of where you can drop off your goods or whatever you find along the way is. So you build your entire ship. Everybody builds it in real time, and then they grab the first, second, third, and fourth markers. We played 4 players. Depending on how many players you have, there's a bunch of markers, and that shows the order that
Who
you
all played with
in.
you guys?
It was me, Hector, Guy, and Ryan. So it was pretty fun. Danny played. He built the ship for like 1 round for me, because they were getting mad about how OP I was in the game, but
Yeah.
but I was just want him to. He had to leave, so I let him build my ship for me one time. But the whole time I was like, no, don't put that there. Grab this. I was like helping him the whole time, and it was even with him building it, it was still crazy. But basically, you build the entire ship. Once everybody's done doing that, then you have to go through a certain number of cards. Like the first round, you go through like 6 level 1 cards. And then you'll play another round where you flip the ship over and the ship gets bigger and you have to build a bigger ship. And then you play a variety of round 2 and round 1 cards. And basically the entire time you're trying to make money and hope that your ship doesn't blow up too bad. And most people, when they play this game, their ship just gets completely obliterated and destroyed. And that's half the fun of the game, is like seeing what happens. Because asteroids will come and pelt your ship and stuff will blow off all over the place. And then pirates will come, and if you don't have enough guns, they'll do damage to your ship. And then slavers will come, and if you don't have enough guns, they'll take away half of your crew. So there's like all sorts of stuff that happens. You basically build your ship trying to prepare against all the risks that could possibly happen, and try to build it the best you can. And then all these hazards happen to you constantly, and you have to try to see if you can withstand them. There are also cards that are just like planets, and you can pick up resources on them. And the resources can get you a ton of money if you have the cargo bays on your ship. And then there'll be stuff like open space, which then you use your engines to try to pass other people. And whoever's in the front at the end of the round gets a certain amount of money. Whoever has the most beautiful ship, so it's like the least damage, it doesn't have a bunch of open connectors on the outside, gets a bunch of money. But it's a very crazy game. And I like it a lot. Like, it's one of my favorite games out there, but it's really hard for me to get it to the table without feeling really guilty. Because it definitely rewards...
Do you know what, like all the combos and stuff like that? Is that why you feel bad?
It's
like,
not really
you
combos.
know what works best?
it's not really combos. It's just the fact that when you build a ship, like knowing them is good, but then also being able to recognize them and see the pieces and like what types of connectors, because there's multiple types of connectors that you put on your ship. There's a universal one, and then there's one that's 2, and then there's one that's 1. And when you're building your ship, if you build it incorrectly, those pieces fall off and you get like negative points. So you have to build your ship fast, but you also have to build it correctly. So playing it multiple times lets you like see everything a lot better and like know what you need to be more prepared for the different things. Normally I try to like handicap myself a little bit, because there's a timer that flips as the game's going, and as people feel like they're doing comfortable, they can flip it over and make it go faster. I'll sit there and just like wait for the time to like run out sometimes when I'm playing with new people, so it gives them like a good chance to like go ahead and build their ship. And I also don't force the timer along. If people want to play like haphazardly, when the timer runs out, you're allowed to move it to the next space. Like you have, I think the timer is like, I don't know, I think it's like a 2-minute timer or something like that. Maybe it's less than that. Maybe somebody else knows more than I do. I don't want to be wrong. But there's a sand timer, and once it goes all the way out, it just sits there completely empty until someone chooses to flip it over. And each round is a number of timers plus 1. So like when you're on the first round, you're building a level 1 ship, the timer has to go all the way through twice. But it doesn't actually start going down until someone decides for it to go down. So basically you can have a whole lot more time than what just the timer does if you just let it sit there. So I don't like force the timer along and like cause people to build a terrible ship because they ran out of time. So I try to go slow. And normally like when I'm teaching the game, we build the first ship, and then we said, here's what you did with the first ship. It looks real bad. This is some tips I can give you on that. Let's just scrap this. We're not even going to go through the asteroids or any of the craziness. We're just going to scrap this, and we're just going to completely build the ship again. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I need to get the expansion so it goes up to like 5 players, and then it also adds like some handicap cards. So I need to get that so I can handicap myself when I play the game. But then it still kind of sucks because nobody really wants to play with you if it's like, well, he lost, but it's only because he was handicapped. You know, it doesn't feel.
It's bittersweet. Yeah, it's the win with an asterisk.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good for me to do insanely good at the game. And then, I mean, I guess another problem is I've played with people that have only played like 2 or 3 times, and then people that have only played like this is their first time. And I just need to get people to have multiple plays so maybe they can get to the point where I am.
Well, I've never played before, but I vow to take you out.
Well, a good thing you could do.
You keep me all the time.
Dude,
I'll take you out.
There is a app for it. The app for the game is on iPhone, Android, and Windows Phone. Like how many apps are actually on Windows Phone. So they've got an app for everything. So if people want to practice and get better at this game, they could download the app.
I don't even need the app. I'm coming for you. Talking smack already. Haven't even played the game, and I'm coming to get you.
But I really like the game. I just feel bad when the game's over and they're like, well, Roy smashed us. And I'm like, I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah.
The asteroids just rolled my way. I've got like guns all the way across the front, engines all the way across the back, and they've got like half a ship built. And I'm just like, think faster.
See, I'm pretty good about thinking
on your toes.
Quick. My toes and on my feet and stuff like that. So I think I would do okay.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'd probably play. Like, if I was like, oh, let me go to a thing where people actually play the game, I'd probably get wasted. And it would probably be really fun. But yeah, with just normal people that have only played the game a couple times, it's kind of like, meh.
That is one of the bad things. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but when you're the GM on things, you're always teaching the game to new people, and it's great because you're like exposing people to new stuff, but you're not really challenged because it's constantly a new group, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
like,
that's why I like to play a lot of cooperative games and games that, like, there's a lot of, like, some people are like, oh man, it's too random. Well, if there's a decent amount of randomness, it can like level the playing field a lot of the time. So
yeah.
So just because I know how to play this game really good doesn't mean that I'm going to get the perfect dice rolls or get the event card that helps me out a whole lot. So it makes it more of a more fun experience for everyone at the table. So
cool.
But But yeah,
Hold on. Nice.
exactly. That was my second game, Galaxy Trucker. Make sure to check it out because it is a blast, especially if you get the game and then bring people up the game with you. So, but you have to like real time because it is real time.
I hate fake time, so I would appreciate that.
Yeah. Some people think that the game's too like the second part of the game where you see everything that happens is too boring because you're really just seeing what happens, but there's still a decent amount of choices to be made. Like, am I actually going to stop on this planet? Because if I stop on this planet, I'm going to waste time and people are going to pass me. And I only have so many batteries. Where am I going to spend them? There's still some choices to be made, and the cards are random that come up. But if you hate the randomness of the cards that come up, you can play the variant where when you're building your ship, you're allowed to look at the cards that are going to be coming up in the deck, so you'll know. You'll know, okay, well, there's pirates coming, so I need to have guns. And then there's asteroids, so I should probably get some shields. So things like that.
Cool.
Yep. So our topic for today is the board gaming hobby.
We're answering everything, people.
Grab
a notepad and pen. We're just we're resolving it right here, right now.
So I actually got this idea off of a topic that I saw on the Dice Tower Guild. But someone was asking whether board gaming is an appetizer for people or is their main course. So that's going to be our first question: is board gaming like the entree of your gaming hobby, or is it just an appetizer that you
Sometimes I eat
going
appetizers for my entree, though.
Well, that's just because you're a rebel, sir.
I am. I don't care. I don't care. I will get nachos as my meal. They're delicious and it's big. So I'll go ahead and answer first. It's so good. I wrote this down. Board gaming tastes like my entree, but I play it like the appetizer. And the reason why I say that is I don't like playing board games by myself. There are some games out there that you can play solo. But I like people. I like the interaction with people. I feed off of people's energy. And so with my schedule, it's tough to get things together. And I don't play as often. That's why I would say it's the appetizer rather than my entree. But I would love for it to be my entree. I'm just time-wise, I'm not there yet. But hopefully here in the fall, things will open up and it'll be more of an entree. But, anyway, that's me, but I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I'm definitely like back in the day. Like I posted, I'll comment on this on the guild, but back in the day, board gaming is definitely more of like a thing we did in between playing other games. Like we played a lot of like Game World, and we played board games when we weren't playing Game World, or we played a lot of Redemption, and we'd play board games when we weren't playing Redemption games. We'd bring out Bang or bring out Killer Bunnies or bring out Settlers of Canaan, which was the Christian version of Settlers of Catan.
That's right.
And we'd play all those sort of things in between, and like we'd have like game days some days when my dad would bring out Dune, so we'd play like that would be an entree for that day because Dune takes longer than Rex, so it's like 6-hour game. So in cases like that, we'd play some pretty hardcore stuff. But mostly it wasn't like board gaming was my hobby like a lot of these other things were, but board gaming was like a thing we just did whenever we weren't doing other games. Basically when I got out of Magic, so I played Magic for a while, and when Magic is there, I don't think board gaming can even be your appetizer if you're trying to play Magic competitively, because it's just Magic all the time.
No, it has to be that way.
You have to study decks, you need to look online, you need to play with your friends so you get better, and that's where all your money goes. So you can't afford to buy a love letter because that $10 needs to go to another land that needs to go in your deck to fix your mana base.
Yep.
So it's like no board games on the table when you're hardcore Magic the Gathering. But after I got out of the Magic because of set rotation, because that happens, I basically had started watching a ton of like reviews and videos and stuff online about board games. I had played some of the newer stuff, and I was getting blown away talking about like playing Battlestar Galactica and stuff like that. And I really wanted to dive in, so I got a whole bunch of board games, got rid of all my Magic cards, and pretty much since then it's been like, as far as gaming goes, board games is the main course, and occasionally I'll play some casual Magic, or occasionally I'll play a one shot of D&D, or occasionally I'll play some video games, but that like barely ever happens.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
Well,
definitely.
I would agree I would say that I play more board games with other people than I do anything else.
Nice.
It's just like a lot of times I'll get done with work like around 11 or, let's say midnight, and I'm still trying to unwind. You ever have that where like you just have like a busy day and your mind is going like a million miles an hour, and so
Yeah.
you can't really sleep? And so that's when I'll throw on, the Xbox or something like that, and I'll just kind of decompress for a couple of hours. And so time wise, it may be even, video games to board games, but I would rather be playing board games. It's just we have to get people together. We've got to have things going on, and it's hard for me to commit to that when, I'm like right now I've got 8 different clients that I'm working with, and I understand I need family time or whatever, but if somebody calls, I'm a commission based only. Like I gotta go, or if I want to buy another board game, I gotta go sell that product. So.
Nice. So we kind of talked about this a little bit, but what other forms of gaming do you do besides board games?
I do like video games, whether that's computer games or console games. I used to play Call of Duty competitively back at when Call of Duty World at War came out. That was the very first one with zombies.
Did you actually play like tournaments and stuff like that?
Yeah, I did. Like, I was ranked 80th in the world at Call of Duty World at War
That's crazy.
at one point, and it was a lot of fun, but it was a full-time job. Like that's all I did. And but I like video games. I don't try to play first-person shooters as much anymore just because it's a whole different thing. I like card games, And what I mean by card games is, yeah, Magic and other stuff like that, but like Solitaire or Hand and Foot or Rummy or Pinochle and other stuff like that, because that's what I played with my family and my grandma growing up. And so it's got a lot of sentimental value for me. And so, I'll pull out a deck of cards and we can play Rummy or 500 Rummy or Hand and Foot. That's the hot one my family really likes right now is Hand and Foot. Or Dominoes. We'll play that a lot. And then also, game-wise and stuff, I like outside stuff as well. Like I'm really big into swimming activities and sports like that, or even ultimate frisbee or flag football. I'm a big guy, but I get out there. I can move a little bit quicker than people realize I can move. And so
you can always just play tackle and just make everybody like run. No, I'm just kidding.
Right? Well, people usually don't play tackle with me. And so, yeah, so I do a little bit of everything, but more inside stuff than outside stuff.
Yeah, for me, like I've played like almost everything as far as like tabletop gaming goes.
Yeah.
Like back in the day, because I went up through all like the RPG stuff, played Game World and D&D, and played tons of CCGs like Lord of the Rings and Redemption and Magic and everything. And I even played like some miniatures games like 40K and HeroClix. But currently, it's just mostly board gaming because I just focus on trying to get the word out there about the podcast, and then like looking up more things about board games. Even before we had the podcast, it was always about watching reviews and talking to people about board games and focusing on all that stuff, and just learning more about like what's this game, how's this game work, and things like that, and trying to plan the next time people can come over to play games. So I pretty much like don't play console games at all. Like I used to play tons of console games growing up, like Nintendo and Super Nintendo and PlayStation and all that. But we have like an Xbox and we have a Wii U, and like we like barely use them at all. Like my wife will play a lot of like handheld games, but I am mostly just like, I'd rather just look up board game stuff online than sit there and actually play a video game, which is kind of crazy.
No. I mean, it's just it's just where you're at right now in life. I mean, who's to say that's going to be, forever for you or something like that?
The only thing that I would say that I play, and I play this totally casually, but I play a decent amount of like Hearthstone pretty casually. That That's the Blizzard like answer to Magic the Gathering, but it's completely online. So it's like Magic the Gathering, but simpler, and then doesn't have like the mana problems. It's a free to play game, and I have a lot of cards for that game just because I've been playing it for like a year and a half, and it's free, so I just keep getting free cards. So it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
I wouldn't play it competitively at all, and I've tried to do ladder and stuff like that, but yeah, they've added like a super casual mode to the game recently, where basically they come out with these like random casual things which have all new weird rules. Sometimes they're like preset decks, and then sometimes they're decks with like weird random twists into the game. Like this week was just completely random decks. So you just logged in, picked the class you wanted to play, and it built you a completely random deck from all the cards that there could be. So it completely levels the playing field because who knows what's going to be in anyone's deck. And then the week before that, you could build your own deck, but whenever you played a spell, it would also summon a creature, a random creature from the entire game that was the same cost as that spell. So like imagine in Magic, if you played a 1-cost spell and it summoned a 1-cost creature, and then you played a Mana Leak, which is like a 2-cost spell, then it summoned a 2-cost creature, but it was completely random from the entire game.
Do you have to fight those creatures? Yeah. Or do they help you?
No. I mean, the way it works is it summons a creature for you. So like it'd be the same thing as having a creature in Magic on the board.
Got it.
The thing about this game is the creatures can attack wherever they want. So your creatures could attack their creatures, or your creatures could directly attack their face. So you have to like figure out how to, like, they can't like block, they just attack each other. So it makes the game completely different when like you're playing all this stuff and you're just getting completely random creatures. It makes it tons of fun because you can just fill your deck with tons of spells and not even have that many creatures in your deck, and just have tons of creatures because they come out randomly. It just completely changes the game up and makes it very casual for everybody. And I've been playing with me and Phil, like, they come out on Wednesdays. Like, they do a new one every single Wednesday. So me and Phil just play a couple games of it, like, every Wednesday, like, on lunch break at work. So
that's cool.
I play it casually whenever, and it's out on my phone, so it makes it pretty easy. Yeah. Anyway, enough about video games. Let's get back to board games. Awesome. So how have your hobbies changed as you've grown up?
I've definitely got more into board games the older I got. I mean, I want to say that happened because I could think more for myself. The strategy more came out. Actually, no. I mean, yes and no. I played a lot of real-time strategy games on the computer growing up as well. So, like, I always had a strategy mindset. It's just the older I've gotten, I've really, I don't know, I've appreciated more the face-to-face interaction rather than just sitting in front of a screen. But I also do like the idea of the strategy of beating that other player. Not necessarily beating them at the game, but like when I play a board game, if I'm trying to win, I'm not just trying to like have my team beat your team, but I'm trying to read you, I'm trying to beat you, I'm trying to see how you are. And so I've enjoyed that more as an adult than I did as a kid. As a kid, that simple trophy for winning the game was enough. But that, the competition of beating one person has really amped up for me as I've gotten older rather than just beating a game. Yeah. And so does that make sense what I'm saying? Like, beating that person, like, and not to say beating like, I'm beating it, but like if you and I were to play a game, it's my wits versus your wits. You know what I'm saying? It's like we're going head to head, and let's say we both played the game 10 times, so we both have a good head on our shoulders of how the game works. I try to read you and try to beat you as well as beat you on the game board, because like whenever you're playing a video game or something, it almost comes down to reflexes, because everybody sees the other guy. It's just how quickly can you press the button, and how good is your internet connection to react. Like who's gonna press the button faster. So everyone has the same idea in mind. Now some people are definitely better at it, and there's a little bit more to it. But when you're playing like a board game and it's face to face, and it's like there's thought into it, and there's consequences, and you can read people's emotions and stuff like that. Like that has become more of a thrill for me, and I've really enjoyed that more growing up. and now than I did when
I
I was
was
younger.
someone on Instagram was talking about how they couldn't find any players to play games with them. They're like, "Oh, I'm like 38 and nobody wants to play these board games with me. I guess maybe I'm getting too old." And I was like, "Dude, man, the demographic for board gamers is
Is
like
like
way like up there cuz it's probably like mid 20s to like I mean, if you go too high, you get into just all war gamers. But
yeah,
it's like board gaming is like for normally like an older generation. He's like, oh, I'm from Germany, and like a lot of these games are considered to be like kids games. I'm like, dude, where are you at? Like the Spiel des Jahres and the Essen and all that is over there. Maybe you're in the wrong town.
yeah,
So
yeah.
but yeah, I was like, dude, just get
You're
out
like
there
in
and
that
find
one
them.
spot of Germany that doesn't like board games,
Because everything
right?
I've heard about, I've never been to Germany, but everything I've ever heard about Germany is they like it.
It's
But he also was trying to play a whole bunch of thematic games instead of like
yeah.
family strategy games, which is awesome because thematic games are amazing. But
Germany itself, though, is a big gaming center because I know that they have big online and gaming tournaments, and they also have a big gaming expo. I know they have Essen over there, but they also have another one. It's like the largest one in Europe.
nice,
It's kind of like the E3 in the United States. They do that in Germany,
nice.
and so Germany is like if you're a gamer. Now, it depends on what type of game. Unless you're like a PC gamer, PC games, South Korea, all the way. If you want to
Right,
play a PC game, it's South Korea. There's no other place. But like in Europe, Germany's really hot.
awesome.
So how about you, Roy?
So I mean, I used to play like tons of a whole lot more video games back in the day, like all the NES and Super NES stuff. And
Yeah.
then got into like the CCGs, and that was like a big thing for me for a long time until my hobby became music for quite a while, where it's just like all I cared about was playing music and shows and stuff like that. Which kind
Yeah.
of during that phase, I occasionally pulled out like a random board game with like some of my bandmates, and they're like, "Oh, this is awesome!" And I'm like, "Yeah, I used to play a bunch of games all the time." But then once you have a family, all that music stuff started to fade away. but
Yeah.
but I mean, I feel like anytime I sit down with a video game now, for some reason it just feels like it's wasted time. I don't even know
Yeah.
why. Like it
No, 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 no. I
didn't
know what you're saying.
used to. I guess maybe because I have a lot less free time. But if I sit down and play a video game for like a couple hours, I feel like I've wasted time. But if I sit down and like read something on the internet or like watch a news video or watch a review of a board game, I feel like I maybe have learned something. And maybe it's because video games aren't actually like teaching me like new things. It's just like, oh, this is cool and it's fun and it's entertaining, but it feels like I haven't gained anything out of it.
Yeah.
But if I sat around and like read a whole bunch of stuff on Board Game Geek or watched like reviews or was reading some science article on Gizmodo or something crazy, I feel like I've learned something, even though it's
Yeah.
nothing that is really important. I feel like my brain has gotten something out of it. But I've definitely gone more towards that sort of stuff as opposed to just sitting there playing games by myself, because I like learning about the games, so that way I can get to the point where I'm actually sitting there playing with other people and having that social interaction, which is so awesome. So
Well, cool.
nice. So is board gaming a sustainable hobby?
Absolutely.
I feel like back in the day, like especially like when I was playing all that other stuff, board games weren't nearly as amazing as they are right now. I mean, there are a couple of outliers that I didn't really know about, like super old games, but like the hobby
they're
is
still around,
huge
though,
now.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
But it's like it's not a fad that's going away. You know, it's
Right.
still around. And what's also great about board games, like look at all those games on the shelf. I think maybe one of the games you have back there is dependent on an app. And maybe you've got like one or two where you need a CD to listen to music. But let's say the zombie apocalypse happens and we have no power and we have no nothing. We can still play games at Roy's house. You know, that's what I love about this. It's, you know, it's whatever's in that box. that's all you need to sustain and to have that game. Just don't lose your pieces. You can still play that game. It's not dependent on anything else except for people showing up and knowing how to read rules. That's it. And so I like that. And that's why I'm also buying games now. And I know you're doing the same for my daughter or for your kids. So, you know, a kid's game now is still relevant and it's still able to play. It's not outdated in 2 to 3 years when she gets bigger. It's not like where I have to worry about Call of Duty 20.
Yeah.
Like, oh, is my daughter not going to like that one because Call of Duty 37 just came out?
They're not going to
And
be
she'll
like
never play that,
they're not going to be like the graphics on this board game are terrible. Like, have you seen the
right?
graphics today?
Yeah,
They might be like, I can't play this on my HoloLens. Like,
yeah,
I don't understand. Like, I can't manipulate it with my hand without actually touching it. You mean I actually have to touch the piece? That's crazy.
yes,
That's nonsense.
yeah. And I do agree with you. Like, things are so much better today than they were, 3 to 5 years ago. The hobby is really coming around, but it will last as long as you keep your things in good condition.
Yeah, I think a lot of people talk about like how big board games got after like the advent of the internet. Like the
Yeah,
internet helped board games a lot because there were all these board games that people didn't know about, like overseas and stuff like that. But
the
then,
internet helped everything,
yeah,
everything.
yeah, so like everybody found these communities for like board games that people could actually like learn about them and like could actually like watch reviews before getting it. Because
Yep.
before, how would you know if there was a board game? If you didn't have a gaming store in your town, you pretty much were only going to find something at maybe Toys R Us or Walmart or something.
Yeah.
Um, we did like the town that I grew up in had like none of that. So everything that we got was offline or from friends telling us it was cool. So
hmm
as that stuff got bigger, you can get a game from the that was designed in the other side of the world shipped to your house now because of the
And
internet.
it takes like a day to get there, 2 days to get there. The internet has made the world so much smaller, but it's also connected people where we're not alone anymore. It's like it's not that big of a deal if only certain people play this game. There's people all over the world that now just play that certain game. It really has connected everybody. So
And
thanks, Al Gore.
and the crazy thing is like Zaya just released their print and play expansion. Did you
Yeah, I
see what
saw
I
you
posted?
printed that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
so
saw
they
you
made
posted
they
that.
made a print and play expansion, which is like, oh, okay, so you print out some paper things, but he actually released the 3D printer models for the ships.
Yeah,
So, and I have a friend who has a 3D printer at work. So he printed out the ships for Zaya, and I'm gonna try to like spruce them up and paint them and stuff like that. They don't look like his printer is kind of like not. He was complaining about it. I thought the models looked amazing, but he was complaining about, oh, it doesn't look perfect. And I'm like, well, we can work on it and make it look awesome. But it's cool that someone can release a expansion for a game, and you can actually have like miniatures for that game just printed out.
oh
So,
yeah,
and in a
and
few
that's
years, that'll be
definitely going to
even more of
become
a
more and more.
reality.
Yep, absolutely. That's you took the words out of my mouth.
So, all sorts of crazy stuff coming down the pipeline as far as like the hobby side of it goes. Because, I mean, part of the hobby is doing all these other things, preparing the game and reading the rules, as opposed to just playing the game with people. So,
Yep. Which that's kind of like our next question is, well, I'll let you go into it
yeah.
since you're the host.
What do you do in your board gaming hobby besides playing games?
So what do you do?
So for me, I've already talked about it a lot. I do tons of like looking on the internet at new games and watching review videos to figure out which games are cool and what I might be excited about. And doing, since we've started this, I've done tons of like social media, like taking pictures of games and talking to people online about games and answering questions that people have. Like I'll post a picture about a game and I'll get several questions about that game and be like, oh yeah, I like this, and oh yeah, we really like this game a lot. And they're like, oh, does this work good with 2 players? Well, maybe this isn't the best 2 player game, but this other game would be cool. And like talking to people about board games, even when I'm not playing the games
Yeah.
themselves. And then also with stuff like my Battle Lore game, I've been painting the miniatures for the game and trying to make that look cooler. That's definitely a work in progress because I still have tons more to do, and I'm taking
Yeah.
my time. But there's lots of different things you can do besides just actually playing the game. I mean, almost almost just inviting people and getting people hyped about coming over to play games is part of the hobby. So,
But that's so much fun, though. I really do like doing that, and especially when after they played the game, everyone loves it.
yeah, or you're just like
I love hyping up stuff. Like I should be like a rapper's hype man, and then once everyone falls in love with it, they're like, "Oh my gosh, you were right."
I mean,
So,
there's tons of times where I just talk. Like, I have a bunch of coworkers that go, I'll just talk to people at work about the games we played like last week, or
Yeah.
like maybe talk to them about games that are coming up and stuff like that. So it's really cool to like be like, oh yeah, we played that game and so stabbed us in the back and that's crazy and oh man, and remember when you were the seer and called me out, and it's just a lot of fun
yeah,
just talking about the games and not even playing them. So there's a lot of community that can come out around that, and like building of relationships, just
yeah.
reminiscing over board games and the stories they create.
Oh, I have some stories that I'll never forget. And here's the amazing thing about board games is like I've got maybe one or two stories on video games or something like that where I did something by accident that was incredible.
Yeah.
But I've got a lot of stories in playing board games to where I made the stupidest move ever, or where I just completely dominated, or somebody, did something dumb, or, like my old board gaming group, you could not leave the game and go to the bathroom. Because, like, as soon as you did, we started to mess with your stuff, or we all conspired against you. Like, the first one to go to the bathroom always lost the game because we were like, nope. Like, if you're leaving, if we're playing a co-op game, you're going into jail somehow, or we're not going to trust you. Or if we're playing a strategy game, everyone becomes an ally. And so, I've got a lot of stories like that. Just good times, really good times. I'd have to agree with you. I really like painting minis and stuff like that. I also like organizing my games. What I mean by that is, when they come in,
Oh yeah.
taking them out of the little punch sheets and clipping off the little plastic stuff like that and putting them in their little.
I have all
like
my,
I go to the
little-
dollar stores and
little
buy
di-
little containers.
I have like little dime bags and little
Yep.
Plano boxes, and like putting all that stuff in the things so that they're all separate and in the right thing, and making sure to buy some deck boxes to put the cards in and sleeve
Oh, yeah.
in some cards. I don't sleeve all my
yeah.
games, but all that's all definitely like part of the hobby itself. I really enjoy all that
But
stuff.
I really enjoy that though. Like I put on some music or I'll listen to a review, and then I'll just I'll start doing that, and it's a nice way for me to relax and escape.
I hope
I'm not
I
playing the
hope
game,
that
but
someone is
I
listening to this
appreciate it.
podcast right now while opening a new board game. That would be awesome.
That would be amazing.
So
Yeah.
if they did, you missed one of the pieces out of the little punch board there. You need to go back and get it.
Yeah.
Better double check those punch boards. Don't throw any of that.
Oh,
in
here's the
trash.
thing. They actually punched it. They punched the thing on the punch board,
But it rolled
didn't
into the
go all the way
table?
through. And no, it's just holding on by like a strand.
Yeah,
Like whenever you punch them and that little piece of cardboard is still hanging on, and so it's just like flapping in the wind. Go back and grab that one. It's still there.
nice. So meta. So we'll get an email later and be like, dude, how did you know?
Right? It did roll under the table after dangling in the wind.
So what is your
Nice.
favorite part about the board gaming hobby?
Well, of course, playing, but for me, it's the experience. Like, I love the idea of being able to get away, and no matter how bad the game is or how great the game is, I really submerge myself into the game. And so, for however long the game is, I'm that character or I'm that army, and I can just not think about work or other stuff like that. I really enjoy being able to escape and just concentrate on the game and not worry about anything else. Like it's very relaxing for me, even though some games I like to play very stressful games. But at the end of the day, I'm playing a game. It's stressful. Whether I win the game or lose the game, that stress gets to go away in a box. Like I don't have to pay a mortgage on that stress or, suck up to that customer on that stress or anything like that. Like I can put that away. And so I love just being able to get away. Just get away.
Yeah,
Like, do you ever experience that whenever you play a game, like you really get into character? And it's not that I do that every single time, but I really do get into the game where I'm paying attention to everybody's move. Like
Yeah.
I'm in the game. I'm involved. That's my favorite part.
That's awesome. I think it's great when like all these other things that I've talked about, like what do you do besides playing game, that all comes together to make the part where we actually sit down and play the game and are having a good time and like forming relationships with each other, building bonds and making like stories with these games. Like all sorts of crazy stuff can happen, and all the rest of that other stuff leads up to that point, which is like the pinnacle where we're actually playing and crazy things are happening and memories are made, I guess. That's definitely the best part, is like the things that interacting with the other people that happens in board games, which you don't necessarily get as much. I mean, I remember back in the day when we used to play video games and like we'd all sit together playing GoldenEye, and it was tons of fun because we were right beside each other playing on the 64. We were playing
oh my gosh,
Mario Party.
that was the game.
Yeah, we were playing Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo, but we're all right there beside each other, and like it actually mattered what happened. But now that it's all like over the internet and you don't actually see the people, it's like, oh, I beat somebody, but maybe they're complaining over the mic, but that's just terrible, and it doesn't really matter that much. But the fact that we actually have like camaraderie together and like, oh man, this guy he has like 3 balloons left, we gotta go like all like hit him with your turtle shells because he's gonna win if we don't. Craziness. And that's one thing that board games has definitely brought back to gamers, that I think is missing in the video game industry right now, is being able to actually interact and create fun times together.
Oh yeah. Board games, though, real quick before we go on, I've come to find this, and you may not, but you may not agree with me, but board games for me tend to expose people to who they really are. Like, I've played games with people where like they seemed really nice outside of the game, and they were really nice in the game. They were still competitive and had fun, but like it kind of showed me like, okay, this is who that person is. And I played games with people where, you know, not to say that people are two-faced or anything like that, but they're kind of like, they're nice to you when no one's around. And then when you go to play that game and it's that co-op game and stuff like that, like it really just kind of exposes who they are. And that's always kind of fun and awkward at the same time, because it's like, oh, you really jerk. Like, not trying to, you know, say anything, but oh wow, like, okay, thank you very much, I'm glad we played this. I haven't experienced that yet here in North Carolina, but there are some people in my back in Arkansas that I played with that I never really got that feel. I didn't really know the people, but then once I started playing board games with them, I was like, this makes complete sense that you're the way you are now. And so I don't know, I've come to find that. Have you ever found that out, where it's kind of exposed somebody a little bit?
Probably more with like playing with people like in Magic, because that happens a lot, or like playing like Warhammer, or trying to play Warhammer 40K. There was so much stuff of like me not actually liking the people that played at the place.
Oh man, there's some mean people that play that game.
So I was just like, I don't even want to be part of this, because I mean, I always like try to have fun no matter what. So we would sit down for a game of Magic, and I'm immediately table talking, like making jokes, being like, oh man, blah blah, just being silly, like attacking with the creature and be like, dude, don't kill this creature, don't do it. I know you got that spell, don't do it. And then they're like, kill, and it's. I mean, I just try to have a good time and have fun. And then there's the people that are just like, They don't want to have it. They don't want to have fun. This is serious business.
Mother says I have to kill that creature. Mother says don't come home unless I win.
But yeah, and my game group is custom tailored by people that I picked out, so I don't have problems with crazy stuff happening. I know my friends are crazy and they do silly stuff, but all of them like games and like to have a good time. So, another thing about the best part of playing games, a lot of people can get caught up in all the other hobby stuff that they forget to make time to actually play the games. So like they're always on Board Game Geek and like making their collection super huge and like getting all the things and like buying tons of games, but they forget to make the time to actually like schedule time to play these games. So I think that's a very.
What are you saying, Roy?
I'm not saying for you. I'm just saying.
What are you saying, Roy? Are we?
Dude, like you've played plenty of games within the last however time. I'm just saying there are people out there that probably.
I've played a lot of games, I know, but I just think it's funny because I am that guy that you're talking about.
Not really.
But I do play games. But yes and no. I mean, yeah. Yes and no. Like there, I'm over 80 games now, and there's probably 20 plus that I haven't played yet.
That's
Now,
crazy.
in my lifetime, I've played, let's say, like 200 different types of games. I played a lot of games. I just haven't bought them all. But there are some games that I do own where I bought them because I did want to play them. I just haven't had the time to sit down yet to play that game, or I bought it because the review was amazing. I just again haven't found the time. But
Nice.
keep going. I'm sorry to interrupt. I want to hear. I
I'm
want
gonna
to hear
say
this.
I'm gonna say what I posted on Instagram. Just do it.
Yes, Shia LaBeouf.
Just play the game.
Do it.
Don't let your dreams be dreams. Good times.
That's
But
an
yeah,
awesome meme.
I was fussing at people on Instagram, telling them that they should actually play all their unplayed games. So, and they're like, "I'm trying to."
I want to because I've got some really cool games, but I'm also in your situation. A lot of games I haven't played, they're big and long
Yeah, yeah.
games. Because I do have a lot of big and long games.
And a lot of those games, like you want to like make sure to read the rule book and watch several videos, so
Yeah.
that it'll go smooth when you actually bring it to the table. I mean,
Because on a long game, if you mess up on rules at the beginning, that could ruin the whole game for you. Because you can't really just go back and change stuff halfway through the game. And so, yeah, you're right.
and another thing about those big games is a lot of times you can't get them to the table super often. So like every time you want to play them, you have to like refresh everything. So it's like, let me
Yeah.
go watch a rules video or watch a review
Yeah.
where they talk about it a little bit to remind myself what's going on and reread the rules so that way you're fresh to go when the game starts back up.
Yep.
But yeah, so the last question is, should we be trying to create more hobbyists, like the people that are buying board games and are all like pumped about it and watching the reviews and all that stuff, or just be trying to create players, so people that can just come to the game and play other?
What do you think?
I think there's no problem with either of them. I think sometimes people are like, oh, we need everybody to be just as excited about board games as we are. Because we both have board game collections. We both
Yeah.
do tons of like other stuff with board games that are not just playing board games. But I think there's a lot of people out there that they don't have to go and buy all the board games and have everything. It's totally fine for people to come over and just play your games or stuff like that. Probably most of my gaming group don't own like a modern hobby board game, or maybe they own one but they never really play it because they just come over here and play games. So I have several friends that have their own board game collection, and like I can talk board games with them like crazy, but then I have tons of friends that just want to play. So
Yeah. I'm with you. I agree. I think it's good to have both. I would consider myself both. I am a hobbyist, but I'm also a big player. I do just want to play the game, but I also want to collect them. But at the same time, and I don't know if you feel this way, I like being the guy that has all the games.
Right.
Like I like when like people at my church or friends outside of your gaming group are like, "Hey, have you got this game? Could we try this game out?" Or, "Hey, do you know about this?" Or, "Have you heard about this?" And I can be like, "Yeah, I saw that on a review like 3 months ago. I got my copy pre-ordered." And not that I'm like full of myself or anything, which I am partially, I'll admit that, but like I like how people are excited and they know that I'm excited and they know that I'm into the hobby and I'm into the board game, and so
you're the guy to go to.
yeah, I like being the guy like, "Oh man, Rob should have that game, or Rob may have that game, or Roy may have that game." Like, "Oh man, I know if I'm excited, he's got to be excited. We can all get together. Let's get a group of people together. You think so and so would like the game." And so I like being that go-to guy because one, I just want to play. I want to be involved. And so, it's kind of like asking somebody to spend the night. Well, if you own the house and all the beds and everything like that, people are going to ask you to spend the night, for my little metaphor. And so that's how I just see board games as well. If I have them, people have to play with me. That's not sad. I didn't mean it to be sad, but I like them, and I like being involved.
And another cool thing is like when you're the one with all the games, like normally like you're the one who's putting the games on the table. Where if like if you go to like a meetup group, a lot of times you'll have a whole lot more like hobbyists where it's like everybody brings their own games and they all want to like argue over whose games are actually going to play.
It takes like 45 minutes to decide which game you're going to play.
because
And then when you
everybody.
do start playing that game, there's always going to be the one that didn't want to play it, but all right, they'll play.
Where if you have just like a bunch of board game players, they're like, "We'll just play whatever you put on the table. Just do it.
Yeah.
You know what's best because you know about this hobby. So put it on the table.
Yeah.
We'll play it." And I'm like, "Yes, you guys are the best." Where I'll play.
And they're a lot of fun too, though, having the players, because they will try anything. And it's not that they'll try anything, but like with your group, you're probably going to play more co-ops, so you invest maybe more in co-ops, and so they're willing to try anything, right?
Yeah. And I mean,
But I just
I'm pretty sure I have a lot of co-ops because I love co-ops. So,
yeah.
but yeah, they like it too because like we like to work together, and I mean sometimes we do those competitive games and stuff like that, but most time when it is competitive, it's super silly. So,
Yeah.
good times.
Nice.
But yeah, I think it's always fun like when I have like a bigger game day and I have a bunch of my hobby board game friends come over and like they all like most everybody like if it's a hobby board game friend because they bring at least one or two games with them. So it's like,
Yeah.
hey, we could play this. So,
Well, the last 2 times I brought games to your house, we have not played those games, so I probably won't bring games for a while.
dude, man, bring games. It's just we have to hit the right player count.
That is the one downside. But yeah. Anyway, good stuff. So did we get a question this week?
Yes, the question of the week. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to email them to us at epicgamingnight@gmail.com. Also hit us up on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or any of those things, and you can ask us questions there too.
Or Twitch in the live chat.
Nice. Yeah, that would be cool. That would be awesome also. So this week, Steven asks, how do you replace lost pieces that are crucial to gameplay? And then he had #question, #board games.
Hashtag don't lose them. I'll repeat, don't lose them. If it's like crucial to the game and you lost my piece, you're buying me a new game.
Well, what if you had your board game like you had just finished punching them and your dog or your daughter grabs it and like breaks it in half or something?
That's why I go to my quiet space and I do that stuff and I get away and stuff like that. And that's why I don't have any animals. That's not why I don't have any animals. I used to have a cat and a dog, but I do those things privately for that reason. Like
Yes,
I'm the same
you have
way
your
with my
gaming
movies and video
sanctuary.
games. Well, I'm the same way with my movies and video games. I grew up in a house where there were 6 of us. So I have 5 siblings, and everyone was always touching stuff and breaking stuff and things like that. And so my stuff was always very important to me. Like I want everything not necessarily like super clean, but it's all in order. Everything is put up in a certain way. Like my wife, whenever she takes out a game out of my Xbox to watch Netflix or put in like a kid's game, I'm like, hold on. Don't touch the CD. Touch the rim. Please put it back properly. Don't just put it back on the case. It doesn't just go on the case. The case is there for the game to be put in. Like come on. Like, I don't know. I'm just big on not just presentation, but quality. I want the game to stay in its highest quality possible at all time. And so, to answer Steven's question, if I have ever lost a piece to a game, which I haven't, that is crucial to the game, because I am that friend that'll tell you, hey man, let's not drink anything by this game because I actually really care about this game.
I care
if
about
that
this
ever
game more than
happens-
you do. So if you spill the
Yeah.
game, we're gonna have to make the hard choice and end you.
Or like some of these games are not cheap, and so it's like,
Yeah, for real.
"Oh, thank you for ruining my $97 game that I bought. I appreciate
that has
that."
never happened to me, and I'm praying that it won't.
Yeah. But if that were to ever happen and it was a game that I loved, I would just buy a new game. I would buy the game over again. If it wasn't a game that I really cared about and I knew it wasn't going to play for a very long time, I would try to make do with maybe another piece from another game that I don't care for. But don't lose it, Steven. Don't lose it. And if your friends come over, kick them out if they lose it. And if you have animals, give them away to a happy home somewhere else. And to your children, give them away to a happy home or somewhere else. Like, go to that quiet place. Don't lose your stuff.
So my answer, Steven, hopefully will be a little bit more helpful than Rob's angry answers. Normally, like, you can, if you lose something that's crucial to the game, a lot of times you can just contact the publisher. Like, a lot of the publishers for these board games, like, want their games to be played. And if you, like,
Yeah.
explain to them the situations, like, most all these publishers, I'm pretty sure all these publishers have an email address for, like, missing, broken, or lost parts. So I would
Yeah.
check on their website, find the email address, and email them what components were lost, and they might ask you for more information and stuff like that to make sure that they have everything right. And most likely they'll just ship it to you. I know people have had issues with tons of games coming in messed up, and the publisher will replace those parts easily because, of course, that's their fault. But a lot of times they just board gaming. They just want these games to be played. Like, they want them to make a good experience. And if you have a bad
Yep.
experience with the game, how's that going to look for that game for those people? So they want you to have a good time. So I would just contact the publisher, let them know the situation, and hopefully they can get you a replacement for it. I mean, even if you had to pay a little bit of money for it, which you might just have to cover shipping costs or something, if they're like, well, you
Yeah.
lost it, you got to pay shipping costs, I'm sure that's going to be a lot cheaper than buying a whole new game. So especially if
Correct.
it's a game that you love. So
Well, and also this hobby is still very small. I
Right.
mean, it's small, but it's not small because I know we talked about when we talked with Isaac, like Dead of Winter now has exceeded 80,000 sales, and it's still on back order. And if you were to take 80,000 for a board game, that's huge. That's like double, triple platinum. But if you were to put that compared to a video game, that's nothing. That's like a weekend. That's
Yeah.
not a big deal at all. And so I disagree with everything you just said. I do agree that they do want their game to be played. They do want more hobbyists, and so they are willing to work with you. They're not big enough yet. Even Fantasy Flight, some of these big games or big companies, they're not big enough yet to the point where they've got their noses in the air. Like, this is a really friendly community. I've been to a couple cons and stuff like that, and I haven't met people that were just like, my game. You should be thanking me for playing my game. Nobody's got that attitude. Everyone's really excited. They're gamers themselves, and so they will help you out. And a lot of times you can find that information on their website under their contact us. They've got like 4 or 5 different ways to contact them.
Yeah.
So
And
I just like to
mean,
repeat everything you say.
if it's like something really small, like I have like a drawer of like cubes and dice and like random stuff. So if it's something that's not crucial, as opposed to where you say crucial, but if it's something that's not crucial or something like that's easily replaced, I've just got like a drawer of random things from board games and that I've used for prototypes and for games that have basically become trash. I just throw them all in one drawer and there's a bunch of random bits.
I am OCD though in the way where I do have a drawer of like components, but I've never used them for other games because, again, back to my don't lose them. I like everything to be in order, and so I am OCD to that point where, as crappy as some components may be, that's what the game came with. So that's what you play with that game. You don't do other stuff unless like you have the option to like upgrade dice. Like if it's just dice, okay, I've got some cool looking dice. But if it's like, like these figures would look really cool with this game. Like Zaya's got some cool ships. But let's say another game has some amazing ships. I would only play with the Zaya ships. I don't care how much better the other ships look like. They're not Zaya ships. They didn't come out with Zaya. Like, don't do that. And so that's me personally. I imagine I'm not the only one like that. But thank you so much, Stephen, for asking your question. We appreciate it. We appreciate all of our listeners, all 7 of you. Should we come out with a name for our listeners? Should they be? Should we do that? Have you thought about that at all? Like,
No.
some podcasts. No, not yet.
Not yet.
Okay, because we don't have a table this year at Gen Con. But like when people come up, and meet us because, we're a big deal. They could be like, "Oh, I'm an EGNer, Epic Gaming Night listener, EGNers." That's dumb. We'll have to come up with something. We have to. We should.
Nice.
Please interrupt me at any time because I'm just rambling.
I guess it's pretty much been a podcast.
It has been, and we miss Matt. Like, seriously, Matt. I did part of a podcast from Disney World, bro. Disney World. I was bumping into people.
The best
I had
audio
Mickey
quality
Mouse.
ever, I'm sure.
Right? I was a Cylon robot. Matthew, come on.
He's probably not going to listen to that. I'm just kidding.
No.
So, guys, make sure to check us out. We live stream this podcast every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Next week, we're going to be talking about some Gen Con stuff, so make sure to check that out. We also stream board games on our Twitch page channel Fridays, 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that is www.twitch.tv/Epic Gaming Night. Also, make sure to check us out on all the social medias, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Hit us up on iTunes with reviews. Make sure to just say hi to us anywhere. And if you see us at Gen Con, make sure to hit us up, because our minds would be blown if one person comes up to us and says, hey,
oh my
I
goodness.
listened to the podcast. I'd be like, what? No way.
That would be amazing. Yeah.
If you can pull the needle out of the 60,000 people haystack that is us, and say hey to us, that would be crazy.
Now, don't we have a guest next week? Before we go, we have Brandon coming on next week or something like that?
Yes, Brandon's going to be coming on. He's the guy that did our 4X shirts for us. So
he is the Analog Gamer.
The Analog Gamer. So yeah, make sure to check out his website and check out the 4X shirt on there. We made one that says explore, expand, exploit, exterminate, because we thought it would be an amazing shirt for anybody that was a fan of like the Eclipse and Twilight Imperium and games like that, Civilization stuff. I mean, it works
just
for
to give
video gamers
him
too.
Just to give him another plug. I bought 4 of his shirts. I really like them, and I've washed the shirts. I whenever I wash my clothes, because I think it's important. Some of them, like if I really like the T-shirt, I tend not to dry them because they'll shrink. You know, I'm a big guy, but I accidentally threw my Red Knight shirt that I got from him in the dryer, and everything stayed the same. Nothing shrunk. Nothing was great. So very good quality stuff. If you're a big person, Roy, you may not have to think about this. But if you're a big person, like you do think about stuff like that, like, okay, there's some shirts where I just, heat tucks everything in, and I'm not ready to tuck everything in yet because I want to eat a taco. And so, right? And so, very good quality shirts, really great guy. I'm excited to meet him and talk with him next week.
Yeah, and that's www.analoggamer.com. And he'll be on. We'll be talking about some board gaming apparel stuff, and then be talking about Gen Con. Rob's going to have to give us some tips on what to do to prepare for Gen Con, since we're both going to be the noobs.
I'll come up with some tips. I'm excited. But also, if you want tips, general tips, go to the dicetower.com website, or you can check them out on YouTube. They just posted like a Gen Con boot camp. I think you posted that too on Instagram. On Instagram. Sorry. But I got some other stuff for you guys. I'll give you the dirty.
Nice. Okie doke. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in, and I guess we will see you guys next time.
See you guys. Miss you already. I love you. Is that weird?
Just a little bit.
A little awkward.
Peace, guys.